It's the Ask Sessions, and we have got Rory Friers from And So I Watch You From Afar, and compositional wizard for screen. I don't know, like, you know, way people do like gaming and TV and film and all that sort of stuff. Isn't it easier just to say screen these days, Rory?
Screen, that's good. That's the first time I've sort of heard that shortcut, but I like it for sure.
How you doing? You well?
Yeah, not too bad, Phil. How about you?
Very good. Yeah. I'm here with a thirst for knowledge, not only to quench my own thirst, but also the wonderful people who sent in questions to the OES Center. So I'm gonna kick into it with straight in on the big ones. How do you know it's the right time to leave your old job and concentrate on music full time?
I think the most important thing to identify off the bat is that you are creating music or art, whatever it is that you're wanting to leave your job for. You need to make sure that your motivations for doing that are very rooted in the simple fact of this is 100% what I want to do. I'm not writing this music to provide X, Y, and Z. I'm not writing this stuff to turn me into this person. I'm kind of just doing this because this fulfills me at this level. Leaving your job though, that's something I did, yeah, pretty early on. But we went off on tour and kind of stayed on tour, so it sort of became like almost self-sufficient in a way. You know, there was always going to be a little bit of, you know, fees from a show. There was always going to be a little bit of merch money. You know, there was always going to be a place to crash, a little bit of food. And for that reason, you know, I mean, we didn't really earn any money for years and years, but we, at the same time, you know, had a lifestyle where we didn't depend on getting money from anywhere else. So it was this kind of little self-sufficient thing. So I suppose, yeah, you want to make sure, you just want to make sure that you can survive, and you want to make sure that whilst surviving, you're extremely fulfilled in what you're doing. I don't know if that's
you have to make a lot of sacrifices when you're a DIY artist. Like and the thing is, 99% of artists are really DIY anyway, because, like, you know, when we talk about the opposite of DIY, we talk about like the major labels or even bigger independent labels. But when you're making music and you're working a job and you're doing this, like, you know, in every other spare moment, you have to make sacrifices. Like, was that the same yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that, you know, almost, yeah, in a way, almost everything other than what it is you're deciding to like dedicate your life to essentially suffers to some extent. You know, I mean, we all had you know, relationships that suffered because you're no longer, well, for us specifically, you know, we weren't about very often. You know, you have your social, you know, life shrinks. You're obviously really you're not earning a lot of money, and the money you do earn tends to go back into what you're doing. But I suppose that's interesting, because although you're making a lot of the sacrifices, they don't, you know, the association you have with sacrifice, oh, this is a hard thing. Actually, whenever you have like identified that initial thing that I was discussing, where it's like, but I love this, it's like those sacrifices are, you know, sort of come quite naturally. You know, you're not kind of like, right, you know, humming in hand. It's always for, you know, this is the thing, you know. And I think, yeah, it would have been yeah, really hard to have been in a situation where I was having to like really you know, think about all those sacrifices each time they came along, because that would, you know, that could be very difficult and really grind you down. But I think if you really know what it is, if you have the real vision of what it is you want to be, then those sacrifices, although hard, the decision to do them isn't so much of a hard one. And maybe that's like a good litmus test. I'm not sure, you know.
One of the other questions that we've got is about the sort of revenue streams that you get as a DIY artist. Like what are the different revenue streams that you can sort of tap into?
So, I mean, yeah, initially for us, it was like live. And I think, live is still, a huge part, more important than it ever was. So for us, yeah, there's live. There's our the royalties then that are generated from playing live. So the more you play live, the more of your back end money you'll see coming in from IMRO or PRS in terms of your live royalties. So those are kind of generated if Phil plays a gig in front of 100 people, then and they've all paid X amount. That place that you've played has paid its license, and then a small part of however many people were there, that calculates to this amount of money, that tallies up to, and once a month you'll get your sort of royalties. If you play supporting Metallica, then there's a lot more people and there's a bit more PRS, and so that's another revenue stream. So the more we're on tour, the kind of year or months after we've been on tour, then you see your sort of royalties start to jump up. And then there's obviously merch, which we sell on the road. But to be honest, merch on the road is almost kind of like what you use to fill your petrol tank, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And it's the thing that just keeps, if you've got any crew, if you've got, you're obviously renting a van, you're paying for hotels, so that kind of keeps all that going. And then there's the sales that will, record sales that we're making, throughout the year. So that comes from our record label, and that'll be usually paid usually like biannually. So like in the middle of the year and the end of the year, it'll be like you sold X amount of records and there was X amount of streams on the streaming services. Here's your share of the money for that. So these are all like trickle sort of incomes. Like there's none of those that are kind of like apart from the odd royalty statement, we're like, what the hell, where did this come from? Because royalties are paid in a really weird way. You have no idea like how much it's just collected here and there and bunched together. So you could on the 15th of each month you could open your app and it's like happy days, or it could be like, oh no. So that's never really something to depend on for sure. But you don't need to build things to be the biggest band on earth. You need to look after your catalog. You need to look after who owns what. You need to navigate it through all the people who will tell you you should do this or you should do that. You need to retain control, and you need to get to a point where when you decide to do your whatever deluxe edition of this, and there's 100 people buy a piece of vinyl, although that doesn't sound very much, that if you can, it generates real income, and all those little streams that I've described, once you bunch all those together, you start to get a picture of, you can do this,
The last question that we have is about tips on growing your network, both in your own city and other places. And I mean, that's something you guys have been very, very good at.
Probably a million ways to sort of tackle that question. But for us, I think what I realized from the very start was like we're such a we're a very strange band. We play sort of strange music, and even within we're an instrumental, noodly, progressive, weird band, and even within that genre, we're a kind of like weird corner within there. I think I sort of early on realized that there was not going to be a kind of phone call moment from anybody. There was not going to be a kind of we're too weird a bet to make for anyone to really put any actual money into. So what I started to do was to just try and find the other people who were either kind of like attitude wise or sound wise, were just sitting within a world that we could relate to. And then yeah, it was like shooting off an email. And once you'd identified the weird kind of like us band in Dublin, then the one economy that we had, we didn't have any money, but the one way that we were able to generate any sort of economy was this like little social economy. So what we were able to do was say, we have access to a cool venue in Belfast. We know like cool people, we can put on a show. This is going to be awesome. Come up and play with us, and we can, have a great show. And then in return, can we do the same in your place? And so then you're kind of plugging into each other's, and you're swapping, and suddenly it feels really cool. You get in a van and you go down and you get to like the pub in Dublin where the equivalent of what you're doing in Belfast is happening, and then you get to play to all the the handful of people who are into what that is down there, and vice versa. And we just sort of did that around Ireland, and we were able to like put together 4, 5, 6 date tours, and we were playing, we'd get a van and we'd ask mates in Dublin jump in the van, and we'd club together all the contacts we had and figure something out. And you'd be surprised, if you're able to put on a show which is, connects with people. And again, that goes right back to the very start, where it's like, you will do that if what you're doing is the thing you absolutely love. You will connect with people, because all connecting with people means is other people get to sort of vicariously live off for a moment and escape for a moment off seeing someone like outpour something sincere in front of them, and that is just so compelling. That that's art simplified. It's like you get to experience that. So yeah, if you can go play 5, 6, 10 shows and kind of present that thing you love, people will they will start to connect with it. And then the next thing, you go down to Dublin and there's a few more people there, and they've bought a few CDs, and there's a guy in a t-shirt, and it kind of goes that. But we definitely did the long slow approach, and we did that over and over and over and over and over and over and over, round and round and round, until people just had to take sort of notice. And that's when we had like a booking agent come on board, and that's an absolute game changer if you can get a booking agent who believes in what you're doing and knows where and who you should be playing to. That's huge. And then from there, then you're plugged into that booking agent's network, and you can speak to managers, and then there's labels, and you kind of like piece it all together from there. But yeah, that's how we did it. And that was kind of before we even were able to completely harness social media. So
Rory, thank you so much for all of the pearls of wisdom that you have sharing with us today in the Ask sessions. We've got some really, really good stuff that I think a lot of the people who've sent in those questions are going to find really, really helpful. So thank you very much.
Yes, I hope it wasn't too rambly, but yeah,
no,
that was it.
Honestly, it's perfect. That's